I've been on social media publicly for almost 4 years, and I just got done stalking my archived posts, and I have a lot of reflections to do. So let's talk about it while we do our makeup. I initially started on social media by sharing content with my ex. I would share content about bicultural relationships. Then I started sharing a little bit more about myself and my journey as a Mexican Muslim. And after I put the hijab on, my content became more focused on fashion, more specifically on hijab fashion, because obviously I'm trying to discover what styles I like, what type of clothes, what colors, what prints, what textures. So that kind of became primarily my thing. And then I went through a more religious phase where I started sharing more like straight up Islamic facts. Then I got pregnant. I didn't really share much about my pregnancy. Then I got divorced shortly after my son was born. I shared a little bit about my journey as a divorcee and what my life as a revert had been after I moved back in with my Mexican family. I had always been scared of wearing the hijab because I would see how everything that you do as a hijabi is literally held under a microscope. Before I wore the hijab, I felt so criticized because of the fact that I didn't wear the hijab. I just felt like I wasn't enough. And I think this is something that a lot of reverts go through. And I think this is the reason why a lot of reverts will jump from like literally become Muslim and like wear hijab a couple months after doing it, because we almost feel like this is the only way that we will be accepted by the community, because our faith is always questioned. It baffles non-Muslims because they're like, why would you choose a religion like that? Why would you want to live such a strict lifestyle? And why, like, it just doesn't make any sense to them. And then to Muslims, it's like you did this for a man, you don't actually believe in it. And if you actually believe in it, then, you know, do it right, which oftentimes ends up failing. I remember when I wore the hijab, I was always being criticized, whether that be on the internet or offline. It was just so overwhelming to me because I already felt like I had betrayed my own culture, my own family, my own values as a Mexican woman by becoming Muslim, you know what I mean? And especially wearing the hijab, like that is a physical change that you carry everywhere you go. To be constantly going through this battle of like not being good enough for Mexicans and then also not being good enough for Muslims led me to have such an identity crisis. When I moved back in with my Mexican family, this is when hijab actually became so difficult for me. My sister and her fiance would come over a lot. I would literally run upstairs as soon as I would hear that bell ring because I just didn't want to wear hijab in my own house. And my family would insist like, just come downstairs, blah, blah, blah. And I would always say like, I don't want to because I don't want to put hijab on. And then they would tell me, well, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, we're your family, just be comfortable, it's fine. It became a problem when I started realizing that this was no longer serving me in the way that hijab should serve me. It started becoming more of a burden on my mental health than it was benefiting me. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards the hijab, and I'm not trying to say every hijabi feels this way, especially if you come from a Muslim family. I genuinely feel like people born into Muslim families are so blessed, and I don't think they realize how big of a blessing that is. For reverts, like, your life changes so drastically, and I know it can change for born Muslims too, but at the end of the day, if you have that foundation of a Muslim family, no matter what, you can always fall back on that. And I didn't have that. It was like I came back to my own culture, to my own roots. Now at this point, I started considering removing my hijab. I didn't want to resort to that, but I started realizing like, hey, this is actually affecting you. And so it was so conflicting. I was like, am I going to be the worst Muslim ever if I take my hijab off, especially because I have a platform now? To be real with you guys, like I literally could have just taken the hijab off offline, and then I could have continued posting with the hijab. But my whole thing on social media has always been real and sharing my journey, and it wasn't always about Islam. And so I feel like because the hijab was such a physical, it was such a visual representation of my faith, like it was obviously a drastic change. I didn't want to feel like a hypocrite. I didn't want to be fake. And believe it or not, I prayed so much to make sure that I was actually making the right decision, and I wasn't just doing something impulsive or something that was going to make my life worse in any way. So these past 3 months since I took my hijab off publicly have been a ride, okay? It's been a freaking roller coaster of emotions. I have found so much passion in figuring out what Islam means to me in my life and in my Mexican culture. And I think for so long, I also tried to neglect the fact that I'm Mexican, and I was like, well, my culture is wrong, and everything about my culture and everything about my upbringings is wrong, and everything is incorrect. And that altered my brain chemistry so bad that I hit a wall eventually. And now I see it like God created you. He made you Mexican for a reason. You were born into a certain family for a reason. Your life happened the way that it happened for a reason. You found Islam, you got married, you had a child, and then you got divorced. And you know, now you're coming back. All of this is happening for a reason. That's what I'm finding so much passion in. The way that I started perceiving Islam was just fear and guilt. It started becoming this negative thing. Islam is not supposed to be that way. No religion is supposed to feel like a burden. Our creator is the most merciful, the all-knowing, the most understanding being. And it's just crazy to me that people feel so entitled to feel like they can judge another person, because babe, on the day of judgment, like, you're not even gonna be there with me. You know what I mean? Mexicans are typically very proud Catholic people. And so I feel like because of the fact that I'm Muslim, I cannot embrace that side of my culture and of my roots. And because I'm not the ideal Muslim, I don't come from a Muslim family, and I don't wear hijab, and you know, I like to live my life, and I like to laugh, and I like to dance. That's what makes me me, and I think that's what's so beautiful about this whole thing. And I know that I'm not the only one. I no longer see things with so much fear, but rather with love. And I think that's the greatest thing that I've gained. And when it comes to hijab, I never wanted to completely cut hijab off. Like, I wanted to continue wearing it on Fridays, whenever I would go to the mosque. I also wanted to wear it during Ramadan and then Eid and special occasions. But I just feel like the way that the internet treated me after I took my hijab off, the internet and people in my personal life, I just felt like I was no longer safe to express that side of me. And also seeing how angry people would get when I show my Mexican side, which, by the way, like, being back involved with my culture is healing a part of me that I didn't know was broken. Anyways, I'm just gonna stop there because I could continue yapping and yapping and yapping. If there's anything specific that you guys want me to talk about, I'm so down to give you guys like story times and share my perspective, because I am a yapper. Yeah, this is the makeup look. I'm gonna go do my hair, pick an outfit. We're gonna go to the Trail of Lights.